Okay.
All right. Still says zero. Is anybody
It's
got their?
working.
It's working. Okay.
Yeah.
So, um, this is the Friday evening call, and I really appreciate such a nice audience, all my old friends. And so, um, Scott, you've been playing your Dhamma, let us say, toying with your duties to the Dhamma this week, and I'm really, really pleased to hear that. So I let you have it back again. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. I was just mentioning how I went on a nature. I'm just gonna call it a retreat, for lack of a better word. I didn't go to any temples or anything, but I was out. I was out in a really magnificent, picturesque environment, away from the dense population of the city, away from Los Angeles, up into the eastern Sierras. So, and this year has been an unprecedented year for snowfall in the Sierra Nevadas. So, um, the all-time record of snow that was ever recorded since they started recording has been broken. So, the amount of snowpack that's left this late in the year is breathtaking, and the amount of snow melt that's happening is even more sublime. So, all the waterfalls are gushing, just gushing out, and everything's overflowing and lush and full of life. And then I was talking about how when people join Dhammarado's calls, uh he really, milks it. He really talks them into like a joyful, happy state, by talking about, just how great this moment is, how great things really are when you turn the mind in that direction. But then I was saying how I would just do this with some people, some random strangers I'm passing by on one of these trails, and it's super easy just like that. So I can just say, "Wow, what a gorgeous day we're having," or "Isn't that just a?" I forgot exactly what I said, but something about how the view is unreal or something, and then the people respond um, with that same like giddiness, that same enthusiasm about just soaking it all in. What a beautiful environment, and just evoking that real
I
that
call it wow state.
that wow
Wow.
yeah, that yeah, really, that it's an impermanent state, but it's like a vehicle, right? It doesn't stay like it. You can't The wow state doesn't keep going, but it kind of gets you awake. But I'll just let Dhammarato take it from there.
All right. Well, you already know the background behind this, Scott, that you've heard me say this before. The Buddha talks about this in several different aspects. And one is in the Anapanasati Sutta, as well as several other places. The phrase is to go to the forest.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It is
Go to
literally the forest. Yeah.
right. Go. He lives in the forest. Go to the foot of a tree, to an empty hut, a place getting away from it like that. Also, he's big on seclusion and talking about being away from the crowds. Also, in I think it's Sutta number 121 or 122, when the Buddha is talking about emptiness. And the example that he uses is here is the forest, and it is empty of Los Angeles,
Yeah,
which he
yeah,
meant.
yeah.
And so that whole quality of it being empty of that which we normally getting focused on, because you also, I think, before the call started, you mentioned that in Los Angeles it's not so easy to cheer people up.
No.
Okay, so what is actually happening there, and there's a wide variety of things that you can talk about. You could start up just walking up to them, taking a deep breath, and say, as on exhale, wow, the air is so sweet here. Okay, that would be a win.
Yeah.
Or um, you could do it more olfactorily in the sense of, oh, isn't that nice? And what you're doing is you're inviting people into the moment. You could also walk past, oh, did you hear that? But what you were doing instead was using visual, which is where most people are, right? To look where we are, how magnificent. And
Right.
people are normally hiking up the trail or whatever, thinking about Los Angeles.
Right.
And you can bring them into the here now. You can take Los Angeles out of their mind by bringing them into the present moment. Now, is this anapanasati or what?
Yeah. I mean,
You're, you,
I don't
you're
really.
the anchor, and you're anchoring them into coming into the present moment and inviting them with your joy right into the first jhana, right then and there. Wow. They're in it, right? But you're saying, right, it doesn't last long. Even for an experienced meditator, it doesn't. You don't even want to be in that wow state for that long,
Right.
um, because it really is a very heightened state of awareness, a heightened state of energy. It's a little bit of work, but it's really, really worth going up to the mountaintop of human experience
Yeah.
quite often. So let's take a chance to do it now. I mean, look at, wow, what a wonderful, and we can just do that because we know how. We don't have to now go. We hear me talking about not going to the forest, and I live in one.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um, yes, we. That's the whole point. Is that let's stay as much out of the village of our own minds as we can, and more into the forest. Oh wow!
Mm.
Or into the wilderness someplace. I mean, would the Grand Canyon, when people see that, they get that wow automatically? I've seen that also in some of the places in Virginia. They are marked like that. A scenic view, they call it, and they should call it a wow point
Hmm.
so that people can stand up and look out and, wow, how magnificent this is.
So one of the views that was particularly enchanting to me was so all around. So it was a waterfall, right? But all around it was ice and snow. But there was a so there's a huge jutting uh, rock formations
I get the
jutting into
point.
the
I
sky,
get it.
and there's ice and snow, and just the only part where there isn't is flowing water. That's
Which
just
is rushing.
rushing, and so that's the hole in the snow that's on it. So it's like a yeah.
This island here has some wow points also. But really, what that means is that what you see is worthy of your attention so much that it takes you away from what you're normally attending to, which is not worthy of attention.
Like your
And
phone, right?
but
Like your phone, right?
you're right.
Staring at your phone, right?
Or worse than that, most of the people that I know will stare at their phone, but really they're not looking at it. They're not really watching the news. They're thinking about something else.
Ah,
And that the old men in the old days that would have their newspaper covered up in front of them to give them, and that they would go for, 30 or 40 minutes without turning the page because they're not
okay.
really reading what is there. They're spending their time in their mental construction.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. So like when people are using their phone as kind of like a coping mechanism to distract themselves, they're not really paying attention to all the details that on the screen and what's going on. They're just doing that, and then they're up in their head, mentally proliferating about the people, right? The city.
The honey balls they want.
Yeah, yeah,
Mitopendica.
yeah.
Yes, exactly so. That's the mental proliferation. So when those same people put their cell phone down because it's too much work while they're hiking, but while they're out hiking, they're still doing the same thing. They're mentally proliferating, constructing, criticizing, figuring out what needs to be done in their lives, and all of that kind of stuff. And here us happy elves walk by and point out, "Hey, folks, it's Christmas," and they will pop out of it.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, that in fact, I think it's Lewis Carroll. He wrote this in the 1850s. It's called The Christmas Story, where you have Scrooge that has to deal with his past and his future, and then he has to deal with his present.
yeah.
Okay, so that's the same kind of thing that in fact he winds up having a happy Christmas in the present moment, to where his past and his futures are shit. And that's what happens with all of us. We get into our mental proliferations about the past and the future. And here you can come and bring that joy. Now, there's another whole quality to that, and that is that those mental proliferations are a lot of work. But we're used to doing the work. We're very good at doing the work. And so here we continue along, pounding the mind away ferociously, just running that supercomputer between the ears at full blast most of the time. And the Buddha talks about that in the sense of fire by day, and then at night they burn by night. Smoke.
Oh, oh, oh. Uh, I want to jump in. Okay.
Yes, yes.
But yes, it's a lot of work, and even the Buddha says, "Hey, Alec, welcome. Good to see you."
Hello.
Even the Buddha says, even the wholesome thought, he puts the wholesome thought to rest, so that my mind may not be disturbed. Because even the wholesome thought, if you keep replaying it, you keep doing it, then the mind will become agitated, right? I think I'm quoting two kinds of thought, or the removal of distracting thoughts, one or the other.
Okay, well, in the Sutta 19, he does eventually, at the end of the Sutta, get around to that even one wholesome thought after another is a bit of work,
Right.
and so they begin to put the gaps in between. The analogy is this is the cowherd with the stick, who keeps having to whack his cows to keep them on the path, to keep them from eating the fruit or the vegetables that are being sold by the vendors at the side of the pathway. But when he gets them to the pasture and they've got their heads down eating the rice stubble or whatever they're supposed to be eating, now the cowherd doesn't have to stand on guard with them. So the beginning meditator has to guard his mind because it's liable to go off into the gutter at any second now, because that's where we're used to.
Yeah.
So once the cowherd, though, gets to the cows there and they're grazing, now he doesn't have to stand with them anymore. He can go off even to a distant tree, sit down, and merely watch.
Right.
Okay, so this is the quality of the second jhana, is just to be watchful of that wow state of being there, how nice it is, instead of falling back because most of those people, within, let us say, 30 seconds after you departed from them or they departed from you, they're back into the mental spinning again.
Hmm.
Okay. Where you keep remembering to come back into the present moment because look where you are in this present moment.
Hmm.
Except that wherever we are, we can do it that way. Look where we are in this present moment. This place is nice enough, even if I'm laying on the floor looking at a puddle of Coca Cola as it seeps into the carpet. That's a wow moment for 3-year-olds and for those on LSD. Why can't it be wow point for a meditator, too?
Right. Yeah.
So anything can be that the getting us into that wow point, which is also having delivered the goods.
Right.
The
Uh,
job has been well done. The cow herd's job was to get those cows to the pasture where they could graze safely.
Now I have a question. Okay, so
Okay.
once you so you train the mind, the cowherd to be in a safe place. So you train the thoughts, uh, specifically the thoughts, to you repeatedly bring the thoughts back to wholesome thoughts, or remove unwholesome thoughts. Now, what about can you say something about kind of habitual tendencies that don't necessarily come in the form of a thought? So, like, let's say somebody's being really negative or something, like really complaining about something, and then you have just like a kind of a gut reaction to it, not necessarily think anything about it, but there's kind of an aversion, right? Like
Hmm.
a habitual tendency. So there's an something happens, unpleasant feeling happens, and then there's kind of like a tension that you don't like that, right? So can you talk
Yes.
about that?
Yes. Okay. Let me use an example of different cultures. And the example is in both of the cultures, you have a group of teenagers, probably more than three and less than seven, somewhere in that range, just to keep the mind in this. And they're walking along, or maybe tripping and joyful or happy, or whatever, depends upon what the culture would require. And then one of them stumbles, but doesn't quite fall down. But he really intentionally stumbles, and everybody knows it. Okay. Now, in the Western society, what will happen, especially if there's women there, is, oh dear, are you okay? Let me help you up. All right, something's wrong here. But in the Thai culture, if that same thing happened exactly, everybody's going to laugh, including the guy who stumbled. All right, so that intentionally right there with that points that the Western culture is looking for something that's gone wrong rather than looking for an opportunity for entertainment.
Wow. So Thai culture is just like snowboarding culture. When
Yes.
when my friends first took me snowboarding, I would just fall down on my butt over and over, and they would laugh at me, and they'll be like, "Good luck, haha, figure it out." And then so it's like you fall down, but it's funny. Like you see someone falling down, they didn't hurt themselves. They're learning, right? So it's
Right.
people laugh. Yeah, it's very entertaining.
Yes, that's the whole point, except that uh, we're not supposed to. There's another thing. This happened with me at a particular place about pool. I think it was like 13 or 14. And basically, what it was at a community center, to where the kids who knew how to play pool wouldn't let the kids who didn't know how to play the pool play pool.
Okay.
Okay. That's
But where were you going with I didn't mean to cut off the original thread. So you were talking about Thai culture versus Western culture when the kids fall down.
right. I'm still
Okay.
in it. Okay. I'm still
It's
on that point.
Oh, okay, sorry.
All right. Only this time I brought it to pool.
Okay, cool.
Okay. To where The intermediate kids, the jealous kids, are going to keep the younger kids from playing pool because the younger kids don't know how. But an adult will help the child learn to play pool. Okay? So what you could say then is that the entire Western civilization society, especially in the United States, is at a level of about a 13, 14, 15-year-old. Now, there's various places in there, but there's a whole lot of immaturity in the West, and it has to do with judgment and finding fault with things and to not liking it. And it's a phase that we all have gone through. The question is, are some of them ever going to come out of it? And the answer is probably not. They wind up in that very famous phrase, grumpy old men. Okay? They never come out of it. They never go snowboarding.
Yeah, no. Something I've noticed is that, yeah, I've noticed a lot of old men are grumpy, but I meet some of these old guys, they may be 60, 70 years old. They're still ripping down the mountain, and I could just have a conversation with them on the lift up the mountain, and it's like I'm talking to like an old uncle or something. They're just a joyful, happy guy. Uh, totally cool with a young punk like me on a snowboard. Most of the old guys, they don't snowboard because snowboarding wasn't invented when they started.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it only came around in the 90s, so they're all on skis though. But there's some pretty cool old guys on the mountain too, who are still having a lot of fun. Yeah.
Right, exactly. That's what it's all about. Can you have fun in your life?
Right.
That's and a lot of people grow up with the idea that I've got stuck perpetually into achieving and trying and going for it, but not ever having the thrill of the ride. In other words, they're all, as far as snowboarding goes, they're always trudging up the mountain, and they're never enjoying the value of the downhill uh, party, the joy, the thrill of life. So that's it. And this is much of the teaching of the Buddha has to do with settling into the happiness and the joy of success. That you feel successful when you're snowboarding.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
the that is true. I think it's not the snowboarding alone though. It's the meditation and the attitude that I bring to the snowboarding that makes it
exactly.
so fun. But there's a lot of people who are like snow bums, and like a bunch of snowboarders or skiers that they're kind of like just alcoholics, and they're addicted to drugs, and they're just kind of doing a bunch of drugs. They're kind of miserable. So like, but I guess like snowboarding is that last speck of happiness that they can hold on to.
Otherwise, they'd be sitting in the bus station with their cell phone staring at the screen
Yeah,
while they're still messing with their own mind.
yeah, yeah.
Okay,
No,
so the
so,
big difference
okay.
then is go ahead.
What I'm trying to say is that even snowboarding, you can be somewhere else.
Exactly.
You can be going down. It's the mind is so powerful that you can be going down the mountain at like 40, 50 miles an hour and still not be in it. Like,
Not watching where you're going and winding up in braces or in a cast.
no. I'm well that too,
That too.
but I'm saying you can be very good at it. But you know how you can drive, and you can get good at snowboarding and just know you know exactly what to do. That it becomes
It
second,
goes automatic. It's
just
second.
like
It's
driving.
second nature. Exactly. Okay.
Right.
Exactly. And actually, the reality is, it becomes part of first nature.
Yeah. Yeah. So I actually sometimes I have to remind
It becomes
myself.
the habit.
Sometimes when I'm going down the mountain and I'm just beelining it, I'm saying, wait a second, why am I in such a rush to get to the bottom? why don't I slow down? Because I can go really fast, but why don't I just cruise a little bit slower and just, wow, look at all this? Because if you're just, boom, looking at, like, trying to get to the destination, you're going to miss everything else, you know?
I have not used it very much, but there was a song that was very famous way back when, 60s, 70s, and it was slow down, you move too fast.
Yeah.
You gotta make the moment last
Yeah.
now. Skipping down the cobblestones, looking for love and feeling groovy. All right, so that's a way of snowboarding. That's a way of living our lives, but it has to do with living in the present moment, of being here now. And even if it's a cell phone that's
Right.
playing some movie or the shorts that they have or whatever like that. In fact, I think that the shorts are so popular because each one will get your new attention.
Yeah.
So where if you're watching a 2-hour movie, after 3 or 4 minutes of the same people having the same argument or using the same weapons, and people just lose their mind and go off into um, uh, their own reality.
Yeah.
And it's hard for most people to understand that most people, including the beginners, are doing that like 90% of the time of their lives. And also that it affects our sleep because it's the same habit, that spinning mind. And so the Buddha talks about it in the sense of fire by day and smoke by night, smoldering, burning, not really getting good sleep. That is called REM sleep, or uh, rapid eye movement is what it's talked about. But you can see it with dogs. In fact, it's really, really beautiful to watch the dogs. I've actually seen two of them dream at the same time. And when the dogs dream, they're doing this with their, and they'll go woof, woof. There's like
Yeah.
they're chasing something. I mean, it's just really beautiful to watch
Yeah.
the dogs dream.
Yeah.
But for humans, about the only thing that they see is the rapid eye movement, where the eyes are moving back and forth as if they were looking for at something. But that shows how um, physiologically the body and the mind are working together, and is sleep is a kind of consciousness itself. And so, if we can learn to actually snowboard slowly down the mountain and taking it all in, then maybe we can slow board through the night. Notice I didn't say snowboard this time. I said slow board through the night and get the rest that we need
Mm.
so that we can wake up fresh and undisturbed, because we didn't disturb it so much with the dreams. But the dreams kind of come along in the sense that when the mind stops running and spinning and burning all day, then it doesn't run and spin and burn all night, I guess, through the momentum that's built up in the day. And so dreaming kind of comes to a stop. Or let us say that it becomes much less important. Rarely does anyone remember the dreams and things like this. But this then leads into the second part of what we were talking about. So the first thing that we were talking about is that wow moment that people can get out in nature, and that wow moment that you can get while you're snowboarding, and bringing the mind out of the spinning, burning quality into the quenching joy of the present moment. The reality is, right now is really good if we could let go of the past, and people are in that wow state when they do.
It's hard to go to sleep when you're in that state.
I'm getting around to that exactly. That it really is hard to go to sleep, but you call it hard to go to sleep because you still have the rules that you're supposed to go to sleep,
Right. Right.
rather than enjoying your wakefulness.
Mm.
Okay, so let's be careful on that one because the Buddha was really big on wakefulness. Now, wakefulness is actually a kind of a side benefit of coming out of our daydreams and our night dreams. By coming out of the daydream night dream system that we've caught ourselves into, many people call it thinking, but there's many different kinds of thinking. And being in the present moment in that wow state, there's not a lot of thinking going on, but there is a kind of thinking going on because you're receiving that input and responding to it. So that's the kind of thinking. But it's not that chatter, 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 or we're still that chatter, argument. Oh, this is too bad. Oh, will you think about that bad? Well, let me tell you this one, and then you'll really feel bad inside. You know, that whole system that we get ourselves into, especially if our culture trains us to go out looking for problems that might occur, like the kids who were slipping and falling down. So this is actually built into our culture. So when we come out of that, that that begins to take the pressure off. We're not working so hard during the day, and we're not working so hard at night, which means that the rest that we do need through sleep is easy enough to get. That in fact, it's an old tradition in India and in other places like Thailand, is for the monks to learn to sleep sitting up, that it can be a training. And it actually is to your great advantage because some places you don't want to lay down. For instance, if you're in the mud or if you're in a barn or something and there's
When
no real good place to sit down or to lay down
when
and
I was
stretch out.
when I was in boot camp, I was in boot camp in the military for 6 weeks. We had very little sleep, but then there would be times where we would be sitting down for some instruction or something, and I would just fall asleep sitting. I would just fall asleep sitting down, and they would wake you up, and they would make you stand up in the back. But yeah, it is very possible to fall asleep sitting down if you
Mm-hmm.
actually really need sleep. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Well, in that case, why is it that our culture has all of these rules about how much sleep a person needs? Like, have you ever heard the word 8 hours as if it was
Yeah.
something magical?
Yeah, that
Do,
is. Yeah.
do you know anyone who has, I mean, they have alarm clocks maybe, but it's very imprecise. Sometimes you have six, sometimes you have seven. Some people will do with six on a regular basis. Other people need more.
Right.
Okay, so the amount of sleep that a person needs is now, we can bring it into Buddhist terms, is conditioned. It's conditional.
Right.
And when you begin to take the factors away where people need sleep, then wakefulness is the natural outcome of that, where we don't go to sleep 3, 4, 5 in the morning every night. And the other thing is that often children do need more sleep. I see that Kitty does sleep a lot, but she also likes to play a lot. And so she plays on the video games way late at night and then she sleeps all morning long. Okay. And so basically, the
How
planet
old is
Earth,
she?
she's 10. She's
Oh,
10
okay.
and a half. She'll be 11 in December.
Okay.
But children in general need more sleep, partly because they're still putting things together. I think that children's brains, because they're less wired with habits, they take a lot of false uh, uh, trips around the mind. Okay, so uh, there's various ways that the mind can get into a state to where we don't need sleep, and that's just fine. Also, the monks train for that. One of the places that they train for that generally is at Paddy Mork. that the night before the Patimokkha ceremony on the full moon evening, the night before that, all of the monks are up. Generally, and Bhikkhu Buddhadasa made a habit of starting a talk at about 2 a.m. And he would talk until sunrise, which then the monks would get all their stuff together and go out on Bendabat. So, as part of the training, I remember specifically the issue was the joss sticks. You know what a joss stick is? It's incense sticks. You know, they always give monks incense sticks. There's a good reason for them. They are the mosquito coils of the day.
Mm.
That's why there's so many joss sticks. And so having 2 or 3 joss sticks around sitting in the woods to keep all of the mosquitoes off, because there's a certain variety of mosquitoes that come out late at night.
Right.
Like midnight, 2 a.m., that kind of time frame, to where most of the mosquitoes are at sunrise and sunsets when they come out. But there are mosquitoes, and they can be ferocious in the middle of the night. And so that was one of the things that I remember. We got to make sure we got joss sticks because the Patimokkha is coming up, and we'll be up all night. So there's a part of the training for it, as well as the point that we should be living our lives to the point that we don't need to be completely out of it, in bed, slumbering for 8 hours. I mean, that's a third of the day.
That's a long time.
And we just throw that away because some doctor in the 1950s thought it up without even doing research. But he was a doctor, I'm sure. And so it becomes kind of a national habit for 8 hours a day. Then instead, what we can play with is ask yourself through the evening into the night, are you tired?
Right.
Are you tired? Ask. I mean, look. Asking, I guess, is to remember to look, to see, how do you feel?
Right.
This is what you're doing when you're on the snowboard going down that hill. You're looking at how you feel, and you feel really, really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's do that. And also, when we get in bed, it feels really good.
Yeah.
So recognize those feelings. Let's be as much into the present moment as we can, and much less of the time thinking about some other place, some other time.
Yeah.
Random thoughts, unwholesome generally, especially when I'm plotting my revenge.
Because that's why they need all that sleep, is because they're tiring out their mind by thinking about all kinds of useless garbage, right?
And then they continue to tire it out in the night by dreaming about it.
Right.
The dreaming is not quite as restful as it could be. So if we spent more time in deep sleep, there's another quality to that. And that is that sleep has various layers. Okay, so let's say that this is the conscious layer, and this is the very, very light sleep where we can get woken out of it very easily. And then we have the deeper slumber, which would be the REM sleep, which is where the dreaming is. And then you have a very, very deep sleep. Now, the question that we would ask within the Buddhist context is, can one come easily out of that very, very deep sleep back up to the conscious level? How long does that take? Because for most people, even if they are in a deep level of sleep and some noise happens, maybe some big piece of furniture falls over, or a gunshot nearby, or maybe the cops are around the house with all their sirens, and they've come up, but they come up only into the level of dreaming, and then they begin to have dreams about that noise that they heard. And they don't come out of it. They stay in that dream state, to where if we're training ourselves well, this is in fact part of the training that happens in Zendos and let us say the more ferocious part of the training. that Zen stick.
Yeah.
The guy walks around the back of the hall and he's going to whack anybody who doesn't know that he's there. How do you know he's there? Well, if your Zen master is standing right behind you and is about to whack you on the shoulder, what are you going to do?
Wake up. Yeah.
You're going to sit up a little bit taller, maybe take a deep breath, but you're going to do something, and he's going to be very watchful to see if you're doing something different because now you're behind him, or are you slouched and down and maybe thinking about something else or whatever. So that training gets carried into the night. You could almost think of it, the Japanese Marines. They
Yeah.
call them ninjas, all right? And so here you are in ninja training, and you're in the dorm room, and the Zen master walks in with his stick. Who's he going to hit? I'll ask it a different way. It's 6 a.m., and the drill instructor from boot camp walks into the barracks, banging his baton on the side of the wall or something like that. Who is he going to hit with that baton?
The guy who's still asleep.
Right, exactly. Same thing in the dojo, except in the dojo, the Zen master is creeping in.
Right.
And he's going to hit whoever's, where in boot camp they go storming in, and whoever's still laying in the rack is going to get hit. Okay,
Right.
We can think of that as kind of a Dhamma training for the mind. Because if you're not up and alert and watchful and knowing what's going on when you're in warfare, you're dead.
Right.
Okay, guess what? In your normal life as a Dhamma dude, when something happens and you're not aware and you're not paying attention and you're slow, then you're in dukkha.
Mm-hmm.
The training is similar there. And so the whole quality, though, is in the military is to get the guys up, to get them going, to give them energy so that they can wake up and jump out of the rack at 6 a.m. or so.
Yeah, I do wish I had the meditational skills of the Dhamma when I was in boot camp, because when I was in boot camp, I was just miserably like exhausted the entire time. It was just I was in a constant state of just deprivation, and it was it was pretty miserable.
But that's what washes kids out, is that. Okay.
I didn't know how to conserve energy. Yeah.
Well, this is why I think it's the Navy SEALs brought in box breathing as part of their training, is to teach the students to watch that breath. You be in the present moment. You don't, when you're, let us say the situation is you're standing before sunrise, up to your neck, in a swamp, in Camp Lejeune, with some heavy weapon above your head to keep it dry. And you're waiting for dawn, waiting for the attack. And this is when the guys get really, really miserable. But teaching them how to do that box breathing, never mind, one more breath. That sunrise will come up soon enough, and then we're going to do our thing. And keep them breathing. Okay? And so that's basically that kind of training. Is not unlike Anapanasati at all.
Hey, Dhammarato.
Yes.
I was going to say that all this is very similar to kind of what sort of a game almost that it becomes in being alert and kind of watching the body, but I'm kind of, or rather watching what's going on and how quickly can you find the tension that has arisen in the body and relax that tension, like the muscles or anywhere in the body, and just keep doing that over and over again, because it'll just like come back and sneak up on you if you're not paying attention.
Exactly.
The shoulders might rise, or the hands might, get a grip, and then you could relax that, and just that relaxing in and of itself is so satisfying.
I know, to remember that wow sensation can be had at that point of recognizing that I can relax. It's like, Oh, I don't have to do that website right now. I can relax. To just keep coming back to the present moment is so delightful that Adam and Eve lived in a paradise until they started judging the place,
Right.
finding good and evil in there rather than just enjoying the heck out of it with that wow sensation. This is it. So, um, the 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 point in all of this then has to do back to that state of being relaxed and yet alert.
Right.
Relaxed and yet alert. That this is actually many examples. Snowboarding is a good example. Boxing is a good example. Probably the most stark
Well,
one. Go ahead.
least amount of effort to get the job done.
Just the least amount of effort to get the job done.
Relax, but still kind of alert. That's how
Uh
to
huh.
snowboard. You kind of flow. That's why I like Taoism. Like, what do you think about? It's kind of like flowing with the Tao. Uh,
Exactly. This is what we're talking about.
yeah,
Exactly. But we can't talk about this. I mean, the Tao that can be spoken, the things that I can say about it, is not what one actually experiences. But I can lead them in the direction, like you can lead a horse to water, but maybe you can help him drink. Maybe you can lead him to water and throw some water on his face and throw some water on your face and enjoy having the water. Maybe you can get the horse to drink.
yeah, yeah,
Okay, so that's the way that we want to live our lives, as if we are gushing with wet and everybody around us feels so dry.
right,
Hmm. But they're so dry that when they see you have water, they are jealous and
right,
they're suspicious
right.
and they wonder where you got all of this water and where did it come from and can I get some from you? Can I manipulate you into giving me some? All of that kind of stuff is why they stay dry.
Yeah,
So we have to continue with that wet. Keep that joy going. Be in
Hey,
the
Dhammarato.
present moment. Yes.
What I was gonna say, it's like what you said, being alert but relaxed. I was gonna say, being alert to how relaxed you are.
Huh?
Being alert to, am I relaxed right now?
Hmm. Yes, exactly. Exactly. Is this and we can ask it in several different ways. And when I say asking, what we're doing means that we're doing an investigating to look at. And so when I say asking yourself, are you relaxed? The actually what we're talking about is we're looking for relaxation. So we've already got relaxation on the mind. So naturally, we're going to find relaxation because we've already, let us say, hypnotized ourselves into being able to relax because we thought of the word relaxation. We go looking for it, and we'll find it. If you go looking for tension, haha, guess what you'll find? And so investigating the body and finding out whatever is there, but we want to put emphasis upon making the body relax. The whole point about investigating the body is to bring it about into a state of relaxation. It's almost like that we stay tense and uptight because we want to be ready for anything, but then we've got the alert system turned off while we're on automatic pilot inside the mind. So we're all dressed up for battle and no place to go. And so we're creating the battles inside of our mind and we're not there for um, the battle. Going back to the Zen master,
Uh,
yes, go ahead, Keyshawn.
I was gonna say, one thing I noticed or kind of was playing with is that, where I'm staying right now, there's a lot of birds outside in the morning, and
Ah,
they're very active, with their sounds. And I almost think of it as, they really want my attention. So like my job right now is like catch myself. When am I not paying attention to the sound of the birds? When I'm not listening, and just keep listening, and keep going back to listening.
Yes, right. There's a whole lot of stuff that's always happening right in the present moment. That's one of the reasons why people like to go travel, is because traveling almost requires you to be up and alert and looking at what's going on. But it also brings its own tension of because of the lack of knowing. We don't really understand where we are, et cetera, when we're out traveling. But we do like that alertness. That's one of the reasons why people go to the Grand Canyon or to Niagara Falls or to the Tetons or whatever, is because they know that if they allow themselves, they will have that wow experience. But what they don't understand is they can have that wow experience sitting at their kitchen table, maybe just by looking out the window or listening to the birds or whatever. And so this is part of the training that we can go through, the training of waking up and practicing being in that state of wow. It's got all of the factors in it, because one thing is that when you're looking at that, the Grand Canyon, or another time that people have it is on the top of a tall building. They look over the side and they see those cars are like this, smaller than any ant I ever saw. And wow, that's a long way down. Okay, so that feeling of that wow, when we're looking, we're not thinking about Chicago if we're in New York on the top of the Empire State Building looking over the side. So we're in the here now. That's number one. That's removal of the hindrances right there. The second one is that thrill or the feeling good, the feeling at rest. And one of that is that, yes, this balcony, though, is going to protect me and I am safe. Just because I look over the side, maybe even to the point that my feet are tingling, I still feel safe. I'm not going to fall over the side. And with that, then we can appreciate the wow. So here we go with the sukha, feeling safe, into that wow sensation, which is the piti. And that if we keep looking at it, we can continue with that state of wow. But normally it's momentary and we come away from it, which means that we come out of that first jhana fairly quickly. But if you understand... Yes, go ahead.
I mentioned something. Another. Sorry. There's a lot of background noise, Keyshawn, coming through your mic.
Yeah, I keep trying to unmute when I want to say something, but then it lets all the background noise in. Sorry. You guys go ahead. I'll mute.
Yeah. Okay. So. The feeling, the getting rid of fear, right? So looking around, I'm in a safe place, right? But also another technique that was particularly useful for me from the suttas is death contemplation. So kind of like it, all fear kind of boils down to fear of the death of the body. So if you understand that so totally and completely that, well, this body is gonna die, it's completely permanent, and it's gonna be dust in the wind, or like we're all just dust in, like from ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Then you're not like that kind of gets rid of fear, like if you really do that. But that's just one. I guess like there's more than one technique in the suttas.
Right. I'm still alive is an important point. I'm still alive. You've probably all heard the expression scared to death. Like the woman turns around, you scared me to death. Right? Yeah. That's really at the bottom of it all, is the fear is really afraid of dying. Now, what that means is that scientifically, we have the self-preservation instinct, or the organism preservation instinct, and its primary mode of communication is the chemicals in the body that lead to fight or flight to save our existence, to save our lives. We either run away or we fight. And that's been historical. Way, way back when, before we were ever human beings, when we were still some sort of great ape, they had exactly that. And way before that, whatever mammals that were there, they had that. That ability to bring fear, that brings up adrenaline, cortisol, a whole suite of chemicals in the body to get us ready for self-preservation, because things are really dangerous right now. But that was in the old days. Now in modern society, how often are you ever in such a deep situation that you've got to save your life? You got to fight somebody to get them off of you, or you got to run like hell from the police. Well, they'll shoot you in the back, so that's not a good idea. But anyway, how often does that happen? Very rarely. For most people, they live their lives and they're not ever in that kind of danger, but they've got the mechanism for it. And that mechanism is often falsely tuned so that we have false positives. So that just the boss walking down the hall and people can go into a panic attack, which means they're ready for a fight or flight, but you can't run. You can't jump up from your desk and run down the hall away from your boss. You can't do that very often anyway. And you can't beat him over the head with your laptop. You can't do those kind of things. And so we're left with all of these feelings from this mechanism of the self-preservation. And it is basic. There are no animals that will survive unless they try to survive when they're caught or captured. Here's an example. Rabbits are a very good example of this because they will go and hide in their hole. But if that fox can get into that hole deep enough and get his mouth on that rabbit so that he can pull him out, the rabbits will go limp. They've resigned themselves, I guess. They're dead meat. If I were the rabbit, I'd be scratching the eyes out of a fox. But the rabbits, I'd be scratching with my hind legs if I could. I'd be scratching his throat. I'd open it up if I could. Right? That's what humans would do. But the rabbit, sheep are another one. That they'll run like hell as long as they've got a chance. But when it's over, they'll just drop off and play dead. There's actually a species that is known to do that, and they do it too often. And so the farmer walks into the corral and 2 or 3 of them will fall over. So we can see that this programming that we have can be interrupted with knowledge or with wisdom. This automatic pilot, this automatic system that we have that was designed and developed for the jungle, now we bring into modern society, and guess what? The cities are now called a concrete jungle. The cities, the concrete and everything is not a jungle in and of itself. The only thing that makes a city a jungle is the fact that the jungle bunnies, the humans, are there, and they haven't really come out of the jungle of their mind. And they still see danger everywhere. So this is the whole point of that momentary feeling safe. So we should practice feeling safe. Practice feeling safe because we have an underlying basis of fear. We have a little bit of adrenaline pumping on from time to time. And new meditators, people who haven't meditated before, they'll say, oh, well, when I'm meditating, I feel all this anxiety. And we point out that, that's not new anxiety now, is it? The fact is, it has been there, but you're now just seeing it. And you can recognize that it's there, then you recognize you're doing something to cause it. Let's stop doing that. So basically, you could say that the teachings of the Buddha could be another phrase. You know, I like how short can you say the entire teachings of the Buddha? The Buddha got it down to 3. Dukkha, dukkha nirodha. I've got one down to 2 now. Stop shit. Whatever shit you're pulling, just stop it. Or another way of saying it would be wise stopping. You don't want to stop everything. Just like the word attachment is often misunderstood in the West, that the cause of suffering is attachment. No, the cause of suffering is stupid attachment. That wise attachment is what we want to do. And one of the things that we do want to attach to is this present moment. Another thing to attach to would be,
Right?
pardon?
One fortunate attachment.
Yeah, you caught me, didn't you? Right. Sutra number 131. Exactly. One fortunate attachment would be to attach to being in the present moment. But there's some others. That's just an example. To attach to friendship, to attach to wisdom, to attach to unification of mind, to attach to the noble. These would be things that we'd be attaching to, but we would all do it by attaching primarily through being in the present moment, to be here now.
Because a meteor might come and strike the earth and destroy everything in 30 minutes. So you better enjoy the heck out of this moment, right? Right? Like
Yeah,
now,
here's another way of saying it. You know, you guys can go without sex your whole lives. You can go without food for maybe 30, 40 days. You
right.
can go without water for 3 or 4 days, but you can't go without breathing for even a couple of minutes, which means that every one of us here is going to die in the next 2 or 3 minutes. You're going to die right now. The only thing that's going to keep you alive is your next breath.
Yeah.
Enjoy. Enjoy this breath. It's life-giving. If you don't breathe, you don't live. Isn't that marvelous? Wow, that brings us in. I said it again. Wow. Wow, it brings us right into the present moment. Ah, the breath is life-giving. And paying attention to the breath then brings us into the present moment. One fortunate attachment is to be here now, as opposed to dreaming something up that's normally concocted through a set of rules and through a set of feelings. And the right way to do it is to drop all of that thought about the past and the future and over places and all of that, and take a look at the breezes blowing and the wind is, wow, the trees are moving back and forth on their own here. It's a marvelous paradise. And it's very nice to pay attention to wherever you are, even if it's a subway. I mean, that's the most marvelous subway that you could have gotten on, Keyshawn. Look around that subway. Isn't it a good one? Yeah, this is a magnificent
Brilliant.
subway.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can see you. Yeah, it's not noisy now.
Oh, great. I was going to say also, one thing that is kind of fun too is like see how many things can I actually keep track of. Like also because it's like even on the subway on the train right now while it's moving, there's like the inertia or like the motion and like the proprioceptive system of your body,
Mm-hmm.
and the body swaying and knowing where it is and knowing that movement.
Yeah.
And knowing it well, and in combination, checking out the sounds and the sights and the smells, and like there's a lot to keep track of. It's like really does become a flood.
Mm-hmm.
It's very joyful to do that. It's like everything opens up.
And knowing that things are there because you can see them and you're open to them and you're in the present moment, you are safe. To where someone who is in their book or in their mind or thinking and not watching what's going on, the train could fill with dangerous people and they don't even know it. And so they're in a dangerous situation and they wind up getting hurt. But if you're there, you know what's going on. You can always maintain your safety because you can see what it would be if any dangers came. So right now, you can congratulate yourself on the knowledge that there is nothing dangerous there. Wow, what a relief. The dangers rarely happen, but if they do, we should be there for it, not thinking about it. So,
as Walter White once said, I am the danger.
Right. The danger is not paying attention. That's what the danger is.
Exactly.
Okay, well, I'm gonna head out.
I am too, guys. This has been a really great conversation. We've been at it for about an hour. And Robert, you're the only one who hasn't said anything. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh,
I've
wow.
been listening along joyfully.
Yes. All right, guys. So, Alex, good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Has Alec been on before? This is my first time.
This is my first time at Sangha.
Oh, welcome, Alec. Yeah, it's good to have you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Also, next time,
Welcome, Alex.
if you come on to any calls, you can just, if you ever want to say anything, like the air is open. But yeah,
as I please.
I'm sorry. What was that?
So I will interject as I please.
Yeah. No,
excellent.
Yeah, thanks. Good to have you. All right. Well,
all right, guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing all night. Good to see you guys. This is brilliant.
Yeah, I'm having fun here. This is good.
Yeah. Bye.
See you.
Good to see you.
Okay. Bye-bye. Nice to meet you, Alex. Hello, Keyshawn. We're the last two.